Now that we've drafted our trousers and created slopers from them, we're going to create a slack draft. Okay. So the slacks are a little more fitted, and than the trousers. They hug the body closer. We'll bring up the crotch a little bit so it has more fit there, and in the rear of them. Okay, so it is, and we'll taper these a little bit more. The pant legs will make it a little smaller. Okay, so I have found that the draft for the slacks actually does have a very nice fit when I've sewn it up and put it on people. So it is definitely, if you're going to create a more fitted pant, this is a good one to start with. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is take your pant slopers and trace them off on a piece of paper. Okay, so here they are traced off on a piece of paper. You can do it separately or together like I did. Notice I've lined up my crotch seam. One thing to remember about the pants, like other garments, what you do on one side, you need to do to the other side. So whatever I do on the side seam of my front pant, I need to basically do the same thing on the side seam of my back pant. Same thing on the inseam and on the crotch and waist and things like that, because they all sew together. Alright, so let's get started here. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to start on the front. Here's my center front crotch right here. The first thing we're going to do on this is we're going to erase, basically, or take out the dart closest to side seam. Okay, so notice we have two darts here. We're going to reduce this to one dart. So go ahead and we're going to just cross out this dart that's closest to side seam. Alright. Now, at side seam and waist, we're going to mark in 3/8 of an inch. So I'm measuring in 3/8 and then marking. We're going to be taking this in a lot in different areas, so I'm just using this. I'm going to set up all my guides and then I'll blend everything together. Okay. At center front and waist, okay, we're actually going to measure up a quarter here, like so, and we're going to measure in a quarter. So off of center front, measure in 1/4 of an inch, like so. And on our crotch right here, we're going to measure up 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so I'm drawing in all my guides. Back to side seam, coming down to our crotch line. Okay, we're going to measure in 1/4 of an inch. And let's go down to our hem. Alright, so if you remember when we drafted these from our crease line right here, we measured out 4 inches in each direction. Okay, we're now going to measure out from that crease line at hem 3.5 inches. So we're reducing it for a total of an inch. So 3.5 there, and 3.5 there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is blend this all together. Alright, so you should have a notch that's 2 inches above your hip line. Make sure that's in there. I'm going to take my curve ruler. And last time what did we do? We placed 11 at that notch that's 2 inches above. And I can just connect to this mark right here at the waist, creating in my new hip curve at side seam. So. Now you notice this is coming in like this. So before I touch anything here, I'm actually going to draw in to make sure I like how this is going to look. I'll use my red marker. I'm going to connect the line at crotch seam where we went in 1/4 of an inch here to the one we went in 1/2 an inch at the hem. And draw that in. So. Okay. Okay, so let's blend in this line now. I'm going to place my ruler here at the mark at crotch where I moved in 1/4 of an inch. Now I'm just going to move this curve ruler up and see if there's a nice curve that will blend in somewhere in here. And I think right about there. So if I place actually 6, that notch that's 2 inches above hip line, place that there. And I think I get the curve that I like. And now I can just use my ruler this way and blend it a little bit nicer into the rest. Okay, so I think that looks good. I'll use my black pen now and make that more permanent. So I can just follow the guides I gave myself here. Create nice smooth 6 right there. There. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now remember here we moved the crotch line up 1/4 of an inch. So let's go ahead. This is our old, this red line right here is our old crotch line. Let's mark that all the way across to our side seam. Like so. Now what I'm going to do is just take my curve ruler and I can actually extend up using my red marker that crotch line. Okay, and now I want to connect to here, but I want to keep my curve. So when we drafted the trouser, remember we marked in 1/2 inch from the crotch. And then we can draw in a guideline that connects to here at the hem. Okay, there's my new guideline. And I'll take my ruler and I'll just put it right against that guideline, and I'm going to connect to this point right here. Okay, the one that we raised up. And I'll just follow that guideline. And blend right down to knee. Right there looks good. So let's draw that in. And then we can finish going all the way down to our hem. Okay. Let's draw our new crotch line. So this is going to blend in here. And we're coming to this point here. And I'm going to draw on a guide first. So what I'm going to do is extend. Remember we came in 1/4 of an inch. I'm just going to extend that line down. Okay. And now that gives me something to blend against. And I'm coming right here. There we go. I found exactly where I want to go. And now I can use this. And connect that. There we go. Okay. All we have left to do is figure out our waist on the front. Before we do that, let's draw in our hem, or we can true our hemline. There we go. Alright, so what we need to do is fold out our dart first. Remember the seam allowance of dart is going to fold towards the center. So let's go ahead and score the line of the dart leg close to the center and center line. Now, because this is so big, usually I fold under here, but it's a very small dart. I'm just going to fold out the dart as best I can. Right there. Okay, and I tape that shut. And now I'm going to draw my new waistline. Remember, we raised it up 1/4 inch. And then we're going to connect here to our new side seam and waist. So, first thing you need to do is square out at center front 1/2 inch and mark it, and that's what we'll blend to. And now from this intersection, I'm going to connect it to this intersection with it while that dart's closed. I just need to find a nice curve that looks like it works. That blends the two. That looks pretty nice right there. I'll draw that in. While my dart is still shut, I'll use my tracing wheel right over the seam allowance. Get my new dart intake. And now I'll open that up. Because it's such a small dart, it's a pretty flat intake. I'll just drew that. There we go. And then again, this is my center front. And this line is still my hip line. We just moved up the crotch. And here's my knee. And then my crease line is still this line. Okay? So there's the front pant leg done. Let's go to the back. First thing we're going to do here is, remember, we raised up the crotch on the front 1/4 inch, so we need to do the same thing here on the back. So I'm going to measure off the original crotch line 1/4 inch and raise it all the way across. So, okay. At side seam, we brought it in 3/8 inch. So let's measure in 3/8 at side seam and waist and mark it. Okay. Don't forget we have a notch 2 inches up from our hip line, so let's mark that. We're also going to remove the dart closest to side seam. So this dart is no longer here. That's gone. Okay, at our crotch, we're going to go in 1/2 inch. So measuring off the crotch. In 1/2 inch. And off the waist, we're going to go up 1/2 inch. So we're raising up our back. And then don't forget, at crotch, we went in 1/4 inch. So let's measure there, 1/4 inch. We came in 1/4 inch there. And that's crotch, the crotch line at side seam. We came in 1/4 inch. And now, here, on our inseam, we're going to measure in 3/4 inch and mark. Right there. Okay, so we measured in 3/4 inch. Here at our hem, this was 4.5 inches on each side of our crease line. Okay, now it's going to be 4 inches. So we're going to remove 1/2 inch on each side. Like so. One more thing we need to do before we connect all this. Here's our crease line. We're going to move it over 3/8 inch towards side seam. So on each of these sections at hem, knee, I'm just measuring over from my original crease line, 3/8 inch. And I'm going to move that over. And now I'll connect those markings. And this is my new crease line. Okay, so let's start connecting everything. Now we need to draw on a new crotch. Remember before, again like we did on the front, our crotch is moved in 3/4 inch and up 1/4 inch. I'm actually going to measure off those new measurements 1/2 inch. And I'm going to connect my hem line to that 1/2 inch to create a guideline so we can create our new crotch. Like so. And now I'll take my curve ruler and from the new crotch and inseam, I'm going to blend those right down to my knee. Right there, looks good. And I'll put that in black. True that. Continue truing this line all the way down to your hemline. Okay, here, let's draw in our new crotch line, which is going to come down here to our new intersection of crotch and inseam. This line that we measured in a 1/2 inch, I'm going to actually square that, or continue that down a little further as a guideline. And now, I'm going to find the correct curve that I can connect from here to there. That looks pretty good right there. And now let's draw that in. Like so. Alright, let's go to our side seam. Up here at the waist, we already know what we can do. If we take 11, put it at that notch 2 inches below our hip line, and then bring our curve ruler in to meet the new marking. That gives us our new hip curve at side seam. And now we need to blend in from him all the way up into here. I'm going to draw in a guideline first to help me blend. So from hip to right here at crotch line, I'll draw that in. And then using my curve ruler, I believe last time I had 9 at this notch at 2 inches. And that should give me the curve I want. That looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and blend that all in. Last thing is our waist. So let's go ahead and fold out our dart. So I'm going to trace on the dart leg closest to center back and center line, crease dart leg closest to center back, fold it shut. Put a piece of tape there. And now, let's go ahead. Make sure you measure out 1/2 inch from center back and mark, square out, because we want that to be straight. And we're connecting that point to side seam. The intersection of side seam and old waist. And just find a nice straight line that fits. Right about there, looks good. And while my dart is closed, on my new waistline, let's trace over the dart opening, where the dart is folded under. And now I can open this up. And there's my dart intake. I can now true. And so our hem is the same. Knee line, still the same. Hip line, still the same. And then this dart remains the same, and this dart remains the same. And there is the slack foundation based off the trouser.